Okay, against this relatively light sky color, this white text at a lower font weight is lost a bit and is a bit harder to read. Also, the chevrons here are a bit high compared to, ideally they'd be centered with the sort of visual weight of the text here vertically. But there, it looks like they're aligned with the top of the text instead. It's a bit strange that I click products for car dealers and see customer login. Why not send people directly to the page if there's only one option? It could be that if I've logged in, then this shows a different list, but yeah, that feels like an extra unnecessary step. I also don't know what a settings cog would do before I click on it, because I expect to see that in, a B2B SaaS app. I don't expect to see it on a website. Okay, so it's purely for language, and I think there's probably a better icon to use for language, or even since you have the space, then the word language, because that's a bit clearer. I recognise this is London. I don't know if you're... I can see I've selected... Okay, so if I click a different country, then it changes the background. It doesn't feel great that I was expecting to click on the first link again to go back to United Kingdom, but I can see it shifts around. It might be good to put these in alphabetical order so people can scan through it and find it more quickly, and keep them in the same order when something is selected. Because obviously United Kingdom should not be the first result, it should be towards the end. But if that's the default that gets loaded, or if it's based on my location, then it doesn't particularly matter where it is in the list, because I'm not having to find it unless I change countries and then want to go back to it. So I'm not sure this currently selected at the front sort of approach is necessary. All used cars feels like a bit of a strange link to put outside the box, because I assume it could be inside the box and still mean the right thing. So I assume you're saying, if I don't want to filter by anything and I just want to see all used cars, that still feels like an alternative to the search button. And so ideally it would be inside this container. And there's a chance people might not realize this is an action they can take, and maybe they think that you're saying that all you offer is used cars. I assume I click that, I just get a listing. Yeah. I might expect, maybe you didn't want to hide the bell tower here, but I might expect avoid paying too much to be on the left and for the search box to be on the right, because that's the flow of sort of the visual hierarchy. You see the title and then you decide to search. And I think this is what's common on other websites with, for example, booking forms or search forms, is title on the left and form on the right. I think perhaps the background image, which would help with these, links up here, could be slightly darker. I appreciate that you're using it to communicate the location. I think that would still work if it were darker, and it would help things like readability with the white text on top. I suspect that's part of the reason you've had to put a white container around this form, is to stop the background image bleeding through for this smaller text. So I think if this were all darker, you could probably put sort of a darker glassy container behind this. It would look a bit more modern. It'd be a bit less jarring in terms of the contrast, and you'd get more of the image coming through sort of visually, if not with specific detail, because it would be sort of blurry behind it. That would feel a bit more consistent overall, rather than having the sort of quite glaring white background. I think to put these countries in the hero section suggests that you think it's important in terms of people will come here and they'll want to use them. In which case I would probably make this less wide so that it feels less like a list that's just wrapped around, and maybe give it more visual treatment in terms of, change country and then you have a grid you can choose from. Because right now they're quite small, they're at the bottom of the hero section, it feels like they've been pushed out of the way. And maybe this big title just above all these sort of small buttons and text sort of reinforces that emphasis and de-emphasis, and so it doesn't feel like these should be de-emphasized as much if you want them to be important. But overall, it's a relatively bold hero section, and I think it, with a few of those tweaks, it could look much better. But then the rest of the website feels like it's a sudden shift in tone. So this feels a lot more like it has had a lot less sort of style applied to it, just because you've got a simpler, sort of plainer visual style. You've got these blue dividers with the, uppercase letters. It feels like a different website, essentially. It also seems like it doesn't seem like Explore and Enhance Your Search are different sizes. Help with selling a car is the same size as Enhance Your Search. I don't understand why this would be a different size title from this. So that feels inconsistent. I also think that the gap between the title and the divider could be slightly bigger. Although I do like the dividers in terms of adding some sort of orderly layout to the page, because some of the content here sort of jumps around or uses different layout rules. It feels like these dividers are helping to make everything seem like it's in an orderly layout. These illustrations or icons feel a bit too big. I think they're probably meant to be smaller because they've got less detail than I'd expect at this size. But they feel a bit big compared to what I assume is the important content to the right of it. So I'd expect it to be smaller, and maybe even to be to the left of each title, which will add a bit more visual interest to the title and remove a bit more clutter from the content in each section. Things like the Trustpilot rating, I would expect that maybe to be at the top here. It feels a bit strange that it's so far down. I wonder if it's just there for SEO. And I say that because it feels like this footer is also really just here for SEO. So maybe some sort of visual style to split this section off and make it clear it's a footer, so that people don't think this is sort of a main part of the website and they have to trawl through these links. That would help people who sort of recognize that footer pattern to ignore it if they choose to.